renovating a building or what?
Great question. It can be used for acquisition of real estate, renovation of property. It could be used for inventory. It could be used, the goal was that the business itself would be looking to expand or diversify, offer a new product line, expand their actual physical space, something that would also trigger job creation.
Okay.
Good question.
Just a comment, the last 2 months, 2 different times I've been at conferences where a large part of the discussion was AI.
Mm.
And one comment that was made was AI is already smarter than the experts. Some people didn't want to agree with that, but others did. But one of the things that I think as we look at workforce development is, going back to your geopolitical comments, but geopolitically in that worldwide populations are declining. It's going to be harder and harder to find people in whatever part of the world you're in. We are going to see AI taking those spots. And I think we need to be looking for ways that we can help those organizations do that. We don't sound great when we're trying to take jobs away, but we're really not taking jobs away. We're just making our businesses more productive. And I just think it's a whole interesting world out there with that. So
We've seen a lot of news articles, or heard a lot of, different articles, different interviews from different experts around, what tariffs are actually going to do, what their goal is, et cetera, et cetera. And I caught the tail end of an interview this morning with the president of the UAW, really talking about the idea that the reporter was asking pointed questions in terms of, is it really going to bring jobs back? Isn't it all going to be automated with AI and technology, because the cost of labor is so high? Mm-hmm. And his response was, you will always have automation in factories. You will see more and more of that, but you will still have to have people there. And you will have to retrain them or upskill them, which in turn should impact their wages. So, it's a yes and scenario. It's not going to go away, but I don't think you're going to ever have anything that's fully automated.
It was pretty close at McDonald's. You can order and never talk to a person at certain places, and the robot makes the burger. So.
But I know it's going to take somebody to come in and service those machines. It's the idea that there are some jobs that will be eliminated, I think, because a computer or a machine can do it. But it is really pivoting ourselves to make sure that we have the training so that people can be on-ramped to the more technical positions. It's fascinating to see the technology that's already here in our Stephenson County manufacturers. Mm-hmm. It's really impressive. And the amount of training on different machines that they need in case a line goes down. Every minute a line is down, that's money lost. And so being able to respond and having that that technical expertise in-house is going to be critical.
And the other thing that's happening with that, though, is that the smaller businesses can afford it now. You can afford the technology to eliminate staff so that you have a machine that doesn't have to take a 45-minute bathroom break and doesn't have to sleep at night. Right. And you, as a small manufacturer, or even in the agriculture industry, all of that used to be expensive. Mm-hmm. And now it's available and usable. And we look at McDonald's and say, okay, we can have a robot do it, or we're gonna have somebody take care of it. But now you're gonna pay one person $30 an hour instead of $2.15. Sure. So that one person's out. So
one of the other things that something you said it triggered my mind. Our communication channels, our weekly newsletter that comes out Tuesday morning, which you all should be receiving, is going to be pivoting a little bit on the 2nd and the 4th week of the month. So tomorrow will be the 2nd week of the month, and it will be geared more towards education, and I'm forgetting impact. I'm forgetting the other word, but it is really geared towards HR, manufacturing, and so what you'll see is it'll come in a little bit of a different format, but there's a whole section around information on tariffs, but as well as some things geared specifically towards manufacturing. It made me think around programs geared to the small manufacturer. There is some programs out by the state now to help with the small manufacturer currently, and they're linked there.
Sorry to get off track. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Beth, on to zoning.
All right. For March, we deposited $2,479.18. Total to the general fund is $14,939.53. Nicole and I conducted our first administrative hearing with hearing officer David Kerlinkus regarding an individual who we've previously issued 2 citations to appear in court in the past couple years. This person had been a chronic violator for the past 5 years. The hearing went very well. The individual cleaned up his property, and Nicole and I have presented the evidence to the hearing officer, and he said we did everything right for our first hearing, which is a big plus, since it's quite a bit of extra work, but no fine was issued since he had everything cleaned up, and he was only required to pay the administrative fees. Nicole and I attended the annual Illinois Association for Floodplain and Stormwater Management 2-day conference in Tinley Park. Much was learned. It became clear that we need to enforce our floodplain needs a lot. Enforcement of our floodplain needs a lot more improvement. Just our basic little application isn't going to suffice anymore. I attended the webinar presented by the Illinois Attorney General on the FOIA. Nicole and I had a Teams meeting with another solar company regarding an upcoming application for the solar farm on the Fireball property located at corner of Harlem Center Road and Lily Creek Road. We've been fielding several calls weekly from surveyors regarding property splits and compliance with our county code. In the past, most surveys did not go through the zoning office, which they're supposed to for approval. And the ones we're seeing just searching on Wingist now are not in compliance with our code whatsoever, under the 2-acre minimum, not having the 200-foot frontage and things like that. So we've been approving new surveys when they come through, which is, they're working all with us really well. And I've issued 2 more code violations, one in Red Oak, not for the same person, and one for Queen Street off of Henderson. And also I gave you a little packet on the landings. Ran out there this weekend. It was a nice day for a drive, so Dan and I took a drive. I needed to compile a list of our landings and the assets we had at each. There's just some photos. I documented a couple things that need to have Wally work on. And if you have any questions on those, I did encounter someone sleeping in their vehicle though at Bobtown Landing. I hope it's not a permanent situation, but they were sleeping in the middle of the day at Bobtown in their car. So that'll be something I'll keep an eye on, but yeah, that's yours. I did miss one thing that Wally needs to, or have on Wally's list, the firewood box at Bobtown, the lid has blown off, like the metal and aluminum, where you not aluminum, yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to add, I attended their first hearing, and it was very well run. They were very, very prepared. They did a good job presenting the information. It was like an informal, formal hearing. He kept the defendant, I guess, railed in and on point, and it was really efficiently run. It's
good.
Very good.
I think this will be it'll be a good asset. I think once the word gets out that, you know, you can have fines $1,000 a day and a hearing fee of, well, right now it's minimum $350. Right now it's $300, but we're going to raise that. But once that gets out there, I think people will start listening to the first, and maybe, you know, if they don't on the first letter, the second letter, they will.
And it was interesting because, as she had mentioned, the person whose hearing it was, this is a repeat offender who's been going on for a lengthy period of time. And once they saw that there was legal action that could be imposed complied.
Right. Going to court did not face him. He went twice. He would tell the assistant state's attorney, yep, it's cleaned up. They wouldn't ask the zoning office whatsoever, and they'd believe him, and then it wouldn't be cleaned up, so. That's all I have.
Any questions? Thank you very much. I have no report from Soil and Water, Recreation and Trails, Blackhawk Hills. I didn't get a chance to get hold of Sam today.
Recreation and trails, I went to the meeting last month and didn't really have anything. They're still working on grants, and there is talk again of trying to get the trail to Rockford started again. And I had a letter I was going to bring in case anybody wants to join this committee, because I made it my point when I first got on the Trail Commission that I'm completely against the trail to Rockford. So I'm not the guy that you want to represent the county for the trail to Rockford. But they're asking if there's any volunteers, but the letter was in the tiniest little print that I could hardly read it. And I've been trying to get a better copy so I can hand it out to everybody. They appreciated my honesty about how I felt about the trail. They're they want to build a trail from here to Rockford, and then it's connected to Chicago, and then bring it, from Chicago out this way. And then down there's a grand river trail that goes through the middle of the state. We're trying to make a big loop is what they're trying to do. That's the goal. And based on, and this has always been my opinion, based on the little bit that we use the Jane Addams Trail, that is not a good use of our tax dollars to go to Rockford. I would rather see us connect Lena to Jane Addams Trail. Then you'd have access to Leoc, maybe go south to give people access on a bicycle or walking, a safe way to get to Walmart, or out to Lamb Road where there's several businesses. You're biking back and forth on Walnut Street Road or on the Highway 26, in the middle of the night. It's pretty treacherous, can be treacherous. And then the cold weather. And so I think there's better ways we could spend our trail dollars. Even in Freeport, if we could get a trail system, like I live over on Burchard, and there's a nice trail that runs from Crate Park to Reed Park. It's 8 feet wide, it's blacktopped, they keep it clear in the winter. If you could get that trail like that, that would go from, say, Sutherland's grocery store to downtown Freeport, that was maintained and kept clear, a big loop that all the citizens could get to relatively easily and ride their bicycle down. The sidewalks are horrible in Freeport. The streets are getting better, but they're, for an older person with a walker or even with a wheelchair, it's difficult to get around Freeport. So and that would be just Freeport, of course. It's not county-wide, but I would imagine that Lena could probably use some access to the different businesses for people on pedestrians or bicycle riders. So that's my opinion with the trail money. If we're going to spend the trail money, let's try and help more than just Chicago people. You're only going to get, you're not going to get very many people to ride from Chicago to Freeport. You're just not. You can't get them to ride from Madison to Freeport. Why would you? Madison has Wisconsin has a whole, I bet you can get from, and I'm gonna look up AI and see if you can get from Chicago to Madison on a trail. I'm guessing there's a trail. So you could get from Chicago to Madison, from Madison to Freeport, and then if they go south to this other trail, you don't even need the trail from Rockford. I'm guessing that but I will look it up.
Could you get the information to Georgia regarding the committee that's being put
Yes.
together to put that out to the county board and see if anyone is interested in
Yeah.
at least attending.
Yeah, like I say, if I could just get the letters a little bit bigger, but I suppose you could retype it or,
Well, it's been
because I
said.
mean, it's tiny. I tried to make it bigger than anything, it just got fuzzy. You know, my equipment isn't, it's from Walmart. Anyway, that's, one more thing, if you don't mind. I was on the trail, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was running north, and a person that had 4 saddlebags on their bike and a big stick on the handlebar and was all bundled up. You could tell they were used to trail riding. And I passed her, I wasn't sure if it was a him or her, had long hair, but anyway, she was going south. And when I come back, she was sitting in that little shelter house at the West Block. And I just went up and said, do you mind if I ask you a couple of questions? I'm on the committee that, and kind of handles this trail. And turns out it was a woman, but she was prepared. She was a trail rider. I said, what do you think of the trail? She said, well, it's pretty good. There's a few things that, I wrote. There's some soft spots, but I kind of attributed that to the time of the year. She said, you have fewer potholes than the Badger Trail between here and Madison, which I thought that was nice. She said, I didn't see any signs that said I couldn't camp. So I just picked a spot, kind of got off the trail, and she said, nobody bothered me. I have a cell phone if I need 911, she said, but nobody bothered. I don't know I didn't ask her specifically where she camped, but it was somewhere between here and the state line, I think. She said these little buildings like this that she was in are nice in case you run into climate weather. So more of those along the trail. And even the cement outhouse. She said if you get stuck in a thunderstorm or a potential tornado, she said I've slept in outhouses like that on the mountains. When a storm comes up you weren't expecting. There's lots of lightning and all that shooting all over. But she said so things like that really people that are going to go on a long road trip is important to them. And it was a really great conversation, though. So I appreciated all that information from her. And I did pass that along to the trail commission too.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
I don't have anything specific to report tonight, so and I don't think there's anybody here from the strategic planning, so we'll move on to new business. We'll go back to Beth for the special use permit for Bears. So
This is just to make a existing motorcycle repair and restoration business legal. He's been running for a couple years under the radar. Somebody had asked if he was registered and I said no, sent him a letter right away. He came in, filled out the paperwork, so here he is. He is just on the property line or the boundary line of Orangeville and Stephenson County. To the east of him is Orangeville. To the south of him is Orangeville, so the road is just the boundary. See, Orangeville called, asked about it, why they were even notified, told them that we legally have to. They were fine with it, so no objectors to this one.
and that we just need a motion to move those on.
Yes.
So what we need is a motion to move that on to the full board.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. On to number 2.
And then Scott and Renee Phelps, a special use to allow for a single family dwelling in the Ag District. I hated to do this, but at that point in time, this parcel already had a special use on it, but it was before 2006 and was never built upon. So in our code, it stated all special uses terminated prior to anything that was prior to 2006. After 2006, there is no termination, so they had to come in for another special use. This is a new owner to this property. And it just should be approved.
Questions? Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor of reinstating the special use permit signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And transferring properties.
I can take
I was
that.
like,
Yeah.
me too, or do you want to?
So as you may recall, a month or so ago, I guess back in February, we had 2 parcels on Adams Street. I don't think the county should own property within the boundaries of the city of Freeport. I had asked at that time if those were the only properties, and under the search that was being performed, they were. However, when another search was entered as County of Stephenson, lo and behold, we found 5 more. These are all on the east side of the river, and they're all treed lots. There's no buildings that have been on them that we're aware of. I've talked to the mayor of Freeport about this. They're willing to take these properties as well. This would be a transfer, not a sale, so it's very similar. It would be for $1 for each parcel, I believe. It fits well within their land use, especially since it's floodway on the east side over there, so they want to make sure there's no new development.
It's all in the green space.
Yes. And so, yeah, I think it's another no-brainer, and it gets us completely out of the city of Freeport.
We're sure. We're sure? That gives us,
Steve, if I had $1 every time I asked, are you sure this time? Not that I'm looking at Georgia. Georgia was looking at what, GIS?
GIS, yeah.
Yeah.
I would make a motion to go ahead with the land transfer.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion?
I have just one quick question,
Sure.
and maybe this isn't the place to ask it, but what is the plan? Are they originally, eventually going to get rid of all the buildings that they can on the east side?
I have
Do you
no
know?
idea.
You know,
No,
do you know
you're asking
what
the
the
wrong
plan is
person.
on the east side?
I think that that is the plan.
Ultimate
Yes.
goal, yeah.
The ultimate goal. I have not seen, it cannot be built upon, or it can be, but it has to be built 3 feet above a floodway, so it would be cost prohibitive to build. So I would imagine it will be turned back into wetland, nature land. I've not seen any comprehensive plan of what that would look like, so.
I know Honeywell's not going anywhere. That building is there to stay from now till eternity.
And they're not in the floodway.
Oh, they're not in the floodway, huh? Okay.
These properties are mostly on the southeast side within the boundaries of the city of Freeport. They're buried back there, except for one, I believe, is on
Yeah, I know.
Route 75.
These are, my wife's grandmother lived back in one of those, used to be a cabin there. Now it's trees. Okay.
Thank you. Any more discussion? All those in favor of the resolution to transfer properties, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries as well. And we'll go back to Andrea for the expansion of the E-zone.
All right. Did everyone receive the letter that was attached? Was there a letter and a map? Okay, great. So in conversation with Savencia, part of their project, as you can see in the scope and the letter, is a small expansion, and they'll reconfigure some of their existing space. So it's not a large physical alteration to the building, but what it will allow them to do is purchase some new equipment, reconfigure existing space, and add a product that currently is only being manufactured in France. So this is for a small brie bite that's individually wrapped. So if you can imagine laughing cow cheese, or that cheese that's wrapped in red wax, something similar in that size, but the wrapping is a little bit differently, and it's brie. So part of the production process is different. It's going to need a large retort facility, or a big, huge, basically boiler-looking device that will heat the cheese but not melt the cheese to a certain degree so that it's sterilized and can then be packaged. The great thing for Savencia and what this will offer, this type of product has a very long shelf life in relationship to cheese, and can even out some of their seasonal workforce ebbs and flows. So as you can imagine, with the cheese, third and fourth quarters, they're slammed. They're really busy. They put on extra staff that they can find, and then they're a little slower in the first 2 quarters of the year. Having this product will help them even out their workforce needs, and allow them to be more even throughout the year. It has a longer shelf life. This will be the only facility within Stephensia's portfolio of plants in the United States that will produce this item. It won't be producing just this item. It will also continue to produce many of the things that it already is. And so what we would like to do is this parcel that you have on the map that ends in 009, where their building is, that was in the old enterprise zone. And when the new enterprise zone was created in 2020, it was just inadvertently omitted from the legal description. It was a clerical error, was not meant to be omitted. But this gives us the opportunity, we have enough lead time if we move judiciously to get this parcel as well as the 2 remaining parcels that Stephensia owns back into the enterprise zone. It's the same process, whether I'm adding 1 or whether I'm adding 30 parcels. My advisement to Stephensia was to just add all 3 at this point. So this is the first step in a multi-step process, and then asking the county to sponsor their request to be added to the enterprise zone. They're looking at just under $7 million in terms of investment, and it would create about, they're projecting 42 additional jobs in this first phase.
Thoughts on that?
Sounds like a great idea. I understand that the cheese industry is.
Are they gonna use dairy or goat for that process of cheese? Because they're like.
That's a great question, because they do both there. I
Mhm.
think it is a dairy. I don't think it's goat brie, but I'm not 100% certain.
They're like one of the biggest users of goat milk out of southern Wisconsin as well.
Yeah.
The wages at the cheese factories have gone up considerably, haven't they? I mean, that's what I've been hearing.
They've all been, yes, they've all increased, not just at Stephensia, but yeah, and to stay competitive, yes. They've
I heard it's not the easiest work either. You know, I mean, never made cheese.
It's not easy work.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a lot of automation in the facility, but you're talking, I mean, I toured the facility, it was a day like today. I mean, it's hot and humid, and I can't imagine what it's like in the middle of summer.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, it's hard work.
It's a great investment in the county, yeah. Sounds like a great thing to me.
So we have a motion?
Yep.
And a second?
I guess I'm not exactly sure on the steps we have to take, but I guess I'll hand it over to you.
If it passes out of committee, it goes to the county board. And if it passes county board, I sign it, and then it goes to the enterprise zone, and there'll be a special meeting for the enterprise zone. I'm not certain if the city of Freeport and other members have to approve it as well.
I think they all.
I have to take it to the 6 units of government, so.
Okay,
Any other questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries as well. Anything else? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All right. Oh, we didn't get it in a half an hour. I apologize.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I'm just throwing out a hint. They should bring samples to the board meeting.
He got a sample when I met with him last Friday, but I didn't have enough for the entire committee, otherwise I would have.
My breakfast that day.
What can you tell if it was dairy or goat?